Now, recently I've been accused of being a bit of a conspiracy theorist. Of course, I'm not. I don't really do conspiracies. The only one I'm interested in is the JFK assassination. No way did Lee Harvey Oswald get those 3 shots with that crappy Italian rifle at a moving target from that range. And he was just a really poor shot as well in the Marines, apparently. Anyway, something just in my gut is telling me something is completely wrong with this whole rioting situation, the far right rioting, the government, Keir Starmer. All of a sudden he started wearing glasses ever since he was elected, not by the majority of the country, by the way, but something's not right. I smell a rat, I smell fishes. I think that's a Welsh term. Doesn't make sense in English, but there we go, you know what I mean. Now, these so-called far-right riots, they fizzled out, as I predicted. They are no more. People have had enough. People have had their fill, and they think it's just not worth it. These issues, these events were used by thugs, I've told you this, who used them to feed their own destructive nonsense. And they were attended also by innocent people, parents, middle-aged men and women who thought they could empathise with the parents of the 3 murdered little girls in Southport, turn up, show their support, but find themselves labelled as far right, cuffed, arrested, put in the back of a police van, charged, criminal records, and now they think, no, what's the bloody point? I am done with this. So when the government, the police and the mainstream media announce that there are 100 again, so-called far-right riots planned all over the country to destroy the infrastructure, etc., and cause trouble and be racists, you got to think, well, where did they get this information from? I respect the fact that the police do have intelligence. All right, not all police are bad, by the way. There are some good ones in there who want to do their jobs, and I believe as well, think the same way as the public do, and don't like the way the 2-tier policing is happening. And yes, 2-tier policing is a thing. It's bloody happening. How can it be right that YouTuber Yorkshire Rose is in custody currently for a retweet when she was drunk and she immediately deleted it, and yet the 2 thugs who assaulted armed police at Manchester Airport, broke a female officer's nose, are still walking the streets? 2-tier policing. But anyway, I am glad that nobody turned up to these 100 or so-called far-right riots, because it was a trap. I told you it was. I mean, the only one that was advertised, according to my research, was on Telegram, and then it disappeared, and not many people watched it or were involved in it. So some people were arrested last night, not many, but they were counteracted by far-left riots. And yes, I'm going to call them far left. They are far leftists. If you believe that people coming into this country illegally are, innocent people, vulnerable people, and they're mainly men, then you can't be a reasoned with ordinary leftist. I think you're a far leftist. So anyway, nobody turned up to these so-called riots, the 100-odd riots threatening to engulf the country in far-right racism. And instead we had far-left protesters, and there was hardly any police at these protests, and the mainstream media said they were largely peaceful, and they were largely peaceful, though there were videos of these idiots with their... all these leftist protests all over the country to counter the so-called far-right, and they all had the same manufactured placard in their hands, waving them. And they were abusing people in the streets. One idiot had their placard and just shouting at people, calling them far-right and Nazis. These people are what they accuse others of being, the lefties. They really are. They're just warped, I think. They're not like the old lefties back in the day. You could reason with them. The anti-Thatcher, pro-miner, civil rights for all, just normal people. These days they're all nuts, aren't they? It's like they've been indoctrinated, or I think the left back then was so weak that a power from somewhere, like a parasite, used them to grow into something mutated, and now we have the far left extremists. And I could never be one. I've tried being one. I've tried to reason with them. I tried to think like they do, but it just doesn't make sense to me. and for that I'm apparently a far rightist. Go figure. Now I've said, haven't I, this whole thing just doesn't sit easy with me whatsoever. Something ain't right, it's all fishy. I smell a rat, and it's all to do with control. I've said this in previous videos. They want to control us. They had this far right riot advertised from somewhere in order to get all these lefties out, and then the mainstream media paint it like the so-called far rightists were scared of the lefties, and so the lefties outnumbered them, and they've won. And now, because they've won, they want to implement control, because we're the bad guys apparently. And it'll come, folks. I've said it before 1,000 times, I'll say it again. Yuri Bezmenov, it's all about control. Look up Yuri Bezmenov. And I'm going to use the word here I've never used on my channel before, and this may surprise some of you, but psyop. Look it up, you're all adults. Don't you hate that when you have a channel, right, and you say, well, this happened. See, if I see that on the internet, on someone's channel, I look it up. I don't, you know, I've got Google, I've got other means. I don't go link, show me the link. Just do some research. You're adults, I trust you. Anyway, psyop. These riots have been an absolutely convenient tool or an excuse for Keir Starmer and his Marxist government to bring in invasive government policies. And that's what it's all about, folks. He has used the teeny tiny minority of far rights and football hooligans or football fans, football firms, and he's relied on them to kick off at protests to bring this in. That's what I think now. That's the belief system. That's the path I'm going down. It just makes sense. I mean, I didn't believe in conspiracies, like I said, apart from JFK. But what happened during the plague, you know what I'm talking about, the lockdown, it was all true. It was all true. Everything they said was true. It's become true. My God. It's crazy, isn't it? It really is crazy the way things are going. But we're going to have control. We're going to be governed harder by these people. It's what they want. They want to control us, the way I think and everything. The way they do things. The way we think and everything. The way we do things. Everything's going to be strict control now, unfortunately. So there we go. Anyway, food for thought. I'll catch you later. I'm going to spend the day fishing. Good for the soul. Anyway, Roger Trout.